Hello everybody, it's VG time back again with another deck profile. Sorry it took a little bit of time off, just wanted to recharge the batteries, enjoy my birthday and the holiday weekend. So anyway, we're coming back with the Draft Box Vegeta leader. This right here is an interesting leader because it got a lot of incidental support with the release of the U7 Unison expansion. So let's get into what he does, some of his strengths, and some of the traditional weaknesses he has. So as a leader, he has an activate main once per turn where you could discard a card from your hand, give him plus 5k and critical. Then when you're at 4 or less life, you could draw 2 and flip him over. On the backside, he becomes Vile Strike Dark Prince Vegeta, which is still one of my favorite artworks in the game. And he has the same activate main as the front side, and then he has a typical leader auto where you draw when you swing. So what's cool about him is that he is usually always going to be crit, usually fairly large, and your opponent has to either defend it with their cards in their hand, in which case it becomes sort of like an incidental hand control deck, or they have to take these hits and lose cards either way. Now, the issue with him is that you have to constantly discard cards, and because you have to constantly discard cards, your own hand size suffers. So, even though I enjoyed the leader and there was cards printed over time that sort of helped to alleviate some of those pressures, it didn't actually do enough in my opinion. But I have hope, and so let's go over the deck profile. So the first card that's printed, I think, is amazing for the deck. Is 4 copies of Gotenks Unison of Rage. This card right here has an auto that says if your leader attack is reduced by a skill, it gets plus 10k. So this is usually used offensively, but it also has some defensive applications that come up in very niche situations when you're dealing with red leaders. But the other effects he has, both of which are relevant, the first one the more so than the other one, is a +1 where you get to take and add up to 1 life to your hand, and then minus 5k your leader. So that is consistent source of Selfawakening, which the deck was sorely lacking. You know, you could run your 1-drop Selfawakeners, but those things are severely fragile. As soon as you use them once, they're usually not going to be able to do anything. They'll just get ran into, die, and then you just only got 1 card off of it. This guy, as soon as he drops down, he gets you a life. He has 3 counters on it, so your opponent has to at least use 3 attacks or a double strike and a regular attack on it. And as such, is a little bit more hardy. The other thing is he has a -2, which is relevant later in the game, where you can look at your opponent's hand, choose a multicolor battle card from it and make them discard it, or choose a monocolor battle card with power 10k or less. Whether or not you discard anything doesn't really matter so much. The bigger and more important thing is that you get to see what kind of negates are in their hand, if any, what their total combo power is, and things like that, so that it helps you calculate your way of getting in and winning the game. And also on that effect, it also minuses your leader. So next up, we have 4 copies of Newwst Destruction's Conductor. This card right here is very strong and does just about everything you want a card in this deck to do. So I know it looks like it says 3, but it really is a 1-drop because our leader is a red Vegeta. So you play him and he has a modal auto skill where you could either search the top 5 for a red Unison with specified cost of 2 and add it to your hand, or use 7 with cost, red use 7 with cost 4 or less, or you could choose to -5 your leader and +5 him. So that means he's never truly dead. You could play him, pump your leader because of the Unison effect, and pump himself. You could then get a swing and a combo with him to try to put pressure on your opponent's leader, and he's not just always a 5k. Next up, taking advantage of the expansion and the fact that you're a red Vegeta, we have 3 copies of this Beerus, the Wrath of the Gods, that says that after you combo with it, you could pay red to have it come into play. It is unique, that's why we're only running 3 of it. You only really want to see him like once, maybe twice at most in the game. He's a 15k critical. He does come into play in rest mode, so you kind of have to time when you do this, when you use him to combo, based upon how many attacks you think your opponent is going to make. And then you have a 15k crit for 1. Next card, and my favorite card, but this one requires the Unison, is Frieza Fairweather Fiend. So this guy's a 20k double striker that has an auto that puts it into play for double red after you combo with it. And the other auto says that if your opponent activates a counter, so it doesn't have to be a counter attack, it could be a counter play or whatever, you get to -30 one of their battle cards ignoring barrier. Continuing with the U7s, we play a card I think is stable in this deck, which is 3 copies of Burst Attack Son Gohan. This guy right here takes advantage of the fact that you are pitching cards and your hand size is getting low. So as long as you have 4 or less cards in your hand when you attack with them, you draw 2. And then finishing the red U7s for now is 3 copies of Android 17 Rebel Reinforcements. Now the reason why I say for now is that I have to get additional copies of this guy right here, which I think is going to be key because it's searchable, 1, with the Newwst, and 2, it allows you to deal with opposing barrier threats and be able to clear opposing aggressive boards. But anyway, getting back to this guy right here is a counter attack that when you counter, you play him and then you play a red 1-drop from your drop area into play. Right now we only have 1 target for him, but we will get additional targets as soon as the next set comes out. But the 1 target we have is Rushing Warrior Pan. So Rushing Warrior Pan, when it comes into play, you get to choose one of your red battle cards or leader cards and get a +5. This is usually a okay alternative first turn play, especially if you're going second and you're trying to get that very first aggressive turn out and you already have a Unison in your hand. You can play this pan, pump your leader 5, discard a card, swing, combo the pan, draw a card back, and not really feel like you lost too much. When you use it with the Android 17, it acts as a Senzu Bean and a combo to draw an additional card, which is also very good. Next up, for continued Selfawakening, just in case you don't see the Unison, we do have 2 copies of Digging Deep Vegeta. This guy right here is a pretty well known in red decks as a powerful Self-Awakener. You get to attack with him, take up to 2 life to your hand, and restand him. If you take a life, of course, and he becomes a 20k. So he puts pressure on. He's decent, like in matchups like Hatchiyak and whatnot. 1 copy of Fearless Pan. Another well-known red card gives +5k and double strike to your red battle cards, excluding itself and your red leader card. Sadly, it doesn't work for the Unison, but it is what it is. Then this next package right here, I think is a flawed package, but I needed to fill space until we get into the next set. And also, I think the concept of it makes sense against certain decks, which is we're going with 3 copies of Determined Super Saiyan Son Goku. He's a 15k 3-drop critical attacker that if you are at 4 or less life, he becomes a 5k on the battlefield. That then leads to us being able to go into this Victorious Fist Super Saiyan 3 Son Goku so that we could swing with double strike and pump it up and becomes a 30k. And then that leads into Triple Flash, SS4 Son Goku. So if you're able to pull this chain off, you will be able to like go up to this Triple Flash, draw 2 cards when you EX evolve it, and then play like a random pan from your hand, and it gets him to 40. Once he's at 40, when he swings, your opponent cannot activate counters to his attack. then they have to out combo you, which you should be able to combo well enough against them and be able to close out the game. And push came to push, or push came to shove, we do have one copy of Hyper Evolution Super Saiyan 4 Son Goku. I know this guy's an ultimate, but he's one of the cheaper ultimates in the game. Mainly because it takes a decent amount of effort to bring him out. He does have direct burn though, which is very powerful. Another option to go outside of this package if you didn't want to run this one is to go lower to the ground, play Saiyan Kabas, play Miraculous Comeback Gohans, or even play the 4-drop ISR Nappa, or things like that that'll be able to allow you to get in underneath people's counterattacks or deal direct damage. So all this crit damage, we do have 4 copies of Supreme Kai, Hidden Power E Supreme Kai. I chose him over Furthering Destruction Champa because of flavor. The Majin Vegeta situation happened during this World Tournament arc where this guy was there, so makes sense to run him. Our super combo for now, 4 copies of Nappa. As you know, if you've been a follower of this channel for a while, I absolutely love Nappa. He is an amazing super combo. The fact you could double up on him is great. The fact that you could create an additional attacker is also great. But I am going to experiment when the new set comes out with the Bulma super combo because of its interactions with the Android 17 negate, as well as the fact that it's very strong and aggressive strategies that are taking their own life and trying to push their opponent down. We played 4 copies of Familial Bonds. This is just to make the overall cost of the deck lower. We have a bunch of 3-drops in the deck. We do not necessarily want to be paying 3 for those 3-drops. You want to be paying 2. Familial Bonds is the way to do it. You're going to get them in the drop area fairly easy because of the effect of the Vegeta. So you get to use this Familial Bonds to bring them back for 2 energy instead of 3. Possibly get underneath people's counter plays, because they may be willing to throw away their 2 energy for your 2 energy, but not when there's ambiguous choice. And then lastly, 4 copies of Frieza's Death Ball. This card right here is also on the fence. It is an amazing card when it comes to your leader and what your leader can do with it, but it doesn't do anything for your Unison. It's okay with your battle cards, but it doesn't really interact with the GT engine. So this was more so a holdover from when I was thinking about using Miraculous, Gohan, and cards of that like. So this is a deck profile. I'm happy to be back. The format after the banning should open up a smidge more, be a little slower, and as such, the deck profiles that I can provide for you could be a little bit more fun that you could bring to your locals.